Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to continue on with short band names, looking at bands whose name only consists of 4 characters or less. We're going to be diving into a band called Envy today, all lowercase. Looking at the album A Dead Sinking Story, specifically the track Chain Wandering Deeply. Let's dive into this and see what Envy is bringing to the table today. Such a stroke of minimalism compared to that wall of sound previously. I think despite the quietness, having the vocals still be drowned out by the volume of the instruments is very choice. Oh, okay. Lovely turn in the hi-hats. I could do with a bit of variety in the hardships though. I like where this is going. So much reluctance, and the drummer's just driving forward. Oh, well, I was getting into that. I'd like to know where that goes because it's super cyclical, and the thing is being in that moment for like 2.5, 3 minutes. It's a build up to a payoff that I didn't get. So listening to the track in a vacuum like this, which isn't the intended way to do so, is uh, very, very much a letdown. That's a bit of a shame. But I'm not going to let that color my experience with it, primarily because, like I said, I know that this is not the intended way to hear it. I've basically listened to, a portion of a larger work, and it's not fair to judge it based on how I decided to listen to it. There's a lot going on in here that I think works exceptionally well and in interesting ways that I don't know if it's necessarily what they were aiming for, but as usual, I like to give them the benefit of the doubt and assume it is. To start off, the song is monotonous, exceptionally monotonous. Even there at the end, like I mentioned, we had a 3 minute slow burn of one idea that kind of hit its stride halfway through that 3 minute slow burn. And then it just kind of, you're either there for the ride, falling into a trance, or you're getting tired of it. And I was sort of teetering between trance and boredom. Again, it's designed to go somewhere, but the repetition is very key. We also hear this throughout our verses, our heavier scream sections, where we're in this 3 time signature. The drums use the same pattern for every bar or every grouping of 3. I kind of felt it in 6/8, but if we were counting in threes, we're looking at 1 bar. The guitars don't really move much either. They have a large pattern that they work within, a chord progression moving through the dyads created from both guitars doing singular notes at different intervals. And when we reach the end point of this progression, we start back at the beginning and we cycle it through over and over and over. And the vocalist has one style, one perceived pitch, one delivery, and leans into it with a repetition of um, rhythmic pattern. It's the same rhythms over and over and over. And so the second time we got to the heavy section and I realized that this was what was going on, I was actually kind of a little underwhelmed by it. I do think that the second half of our second verse, where we got a little bit of a rhythmic change in the drums, helped a bit, but I do think that the repetition, the monotony, the every beats or every bar is the same idea going on here is the purpose of it. It's too present everywhere for it not to be. And so it makes change a big deal. We have a very large shift from our opening 20, 30 seconds. I don't remember. It was a short opening. Into the heavier post-hardcore stuff. And then we had a massive shift back to the opening idea, back to the quiet, back to the simplistic, the minimalistic. There is only one guitar going, I think, here. The drums are rather sparse as well. Our vocals have shifted from that that scream, that cry for help, to spoken word almost. And it's so quiet as the instruments have become. As much as this section is a quiet release from the angst we just went through, the vocals can't be heard over the quiet instruments. And I think this is so important. We hear a little bit of this in our final section as well, but for some reason I feel like the vocals have just a little bit more prominence there. But the idea of screaming louder than the noise around you, but not being able to speak louder than the minimal sound in your quietest sections is phenomenal. The idea that you will be swallowed up by the silence, but you will be heard through the noise is a phenomenal way to showcase a very specific setting. I don't know exactly what they're going through here, what they're deciding to showcase through their music. It's very emotive. There is a lot of tension, half step drops throughout the music. It has a dark overtone to the entire track, even in the quieter sections, and the screaming feels desperate. When you mix all of this, it can point towards a lot of different things, and maybe the lyrics will cue us into that. But I think that the aspect that the spoken word is swallowed up by the quiet instrumentation, I think cues us into something very specific at play. And to me, it's like a mental thing. about not being able to be alone with your thoughts kind of vibe. That's kind of what I'm getting out of it. And the only way to kind of break out of that is to scream and the thoughts fight back, but at least you're heard this way. It is so good at evoking a very specific feeling that I'm glad they went with. I don't know if the vocals were done that way for any specific reason for the themes. Maybe the vocalist is confident, comfortable with their harshes and not so comfortable with their cleans, and so they push them into the mix. Maybe it was just a style they were trying to emulate. I don't know. But the end result is that, to me, it adds to the art. Now, speaking about the mix, a genre that we had in the Patreon polls for a while was Blackened Screamo. Primarily out of curiosity. I can't even imagine what this sounds like. And so it never won the polls, and honestly, even if it did, I don't know that we would get a lot of suggestions for the week to fill out a full week's worth, because I had a tough time even finding bands who would classify themselves as this. I'm not sure if we could find 5 bands worth, but the idea, I think, kind of works here. I know normally we don't talk too heavily about genre, but I do think it's interesting that while this is at its core, to me, very emo slash post hardcore, there is a simplicity in execution mixed with a roughness of production that kind of feels Blackened to me, especially when in our heavier section there is an emphasis on a rigidity of rhythm and dyad work in our 2 guitars. Granted, black metal doesn't have a monopoly on that style of composition, but that mixed with the production style, the singularity of the vocal perceived pitch with our harshes and the pushing down of the vocals in the quieter sections, it kind of feels Blackened to me. There is a TV static, black and white, kind of digital snow thing that I feel here or see here that I typically associate with black metal, not post hardcore or emo. So, I don't know if anybody else gets that vibe. Maybe it's just me, but I wanted to point it out because it is a genre I've been looking for, and I think this is the closest I've heard anything like it. And while listening to it, I thought of that and I was like, dang, maybe this is Blackened Screamo. It's not quite as blackened as I would expect if it is. So, like I said, I'm not 100% sure that it is, but it does kind of check some boxes for a blackened production and a little bit of the composition side that maybe, I don't know. I do want to talk about our second quiet section though, real quick. It's our slow burn. It takes us to the ending of the song, and it starts out with a little twinkling what's the guitar over here on the right, and it's just playing series of eighth notes, higher pitched, not necessarily palm muted, but muted. Just not allowing them to ring out, but having more than just the thunk of a full mute. Eventually, we add in our left guitar playing these longer notes, sort of a more foundational role. They really feel like they want to be here in this darkness, in this quiet. Not necessarily that this is where they're comfortable, they just don't have any motivation to leave. They're reluctant to do anything. And then we get a 4 on the floor bass kick, like a heartbeat, almost driving, saying, "This is the speed, let's keep going." And then we get some faster cymbal work. I don't remember what the speed was, but just really nice hi-hat, 2-stick hi-hat stuff. Again, driving momentum, pushing ourselves forward. And this eventually leads into a very full, open, syncopated, full kit idea on the drums. It's everything else is very laid back, chill, reluctant to do anything, and every part of the drums is dragging the song out of it. I don't know particularly what they're aiming for with this, but the imagery is it's there. You can't ignore it. I mean, it could just be something simple. Again, that the drummer just doesn't like to play slow, but I don't like to assume that art is made by mistake, even though it usually usually is. Even when it comes to film or novels, music, painting, any of it, people read things out of it, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm fully on board with death of the author. As long as you can back up your stance with the text, I see it as a valid read. But when it comes to intentionality, I feel like a lot of really great reads of art were unintentional. So you never really know unless you interview the band and find out what they purposefully did and what they didn't. But I still love that imagery there of everybody just wallowing in this slow darkness and the drums slowly egging them on to get out. First with just the heartbeat of the bass kick, and then the faster cymbal work, and then the syncopated full kit drumming, almost as if at that point utilizing all of their energy to pull the band out of this funk. It is really great. And there's just so many moments in this track that kind of give me these visualizations um, of being stuck somewhere that's not healthy and trying to deal with that. And a lot of it is in the composition and the production. Let me hit some lyrics right here. We'll figure out what's going on there and then we'll wrap this up. I love this. This is so good. It is lyrically about walking in circles, meandering in life, trying to find a way out, a way up, looking for something to change, and sometimes finding it, but it's slipping through your fingertips, knowing that you're a rat in a cage, endlessly going to do this dance. Starts off, says, tired of wandering aimlessly, held by the truth I seek and lose. I've given up time and time till we understand acquired and new the pain from the pouring rain. We could have escaped, for sure. You hold us back with downcast eyes. The struggle to find meaning in life, to find something more than what we do, the meaninglessness of it all. But knowing that there's too many forces holding us down to allow any of us to really find that. Calls it a deep chain of disease. I love that line. Says we've always been recognizing and understanding each other, accepting the same pain, keeping our conversations connected, but we keep walking to find the truth, a place where the heart we found waits forever. Even through the connections we make, we still can't achieve our goal. We're accustomed to the habit of waiting so much that we don't know what to do with our given time. We're accustomed to the common sense too much. I stare at you screaming at the end from a distance, couldn't fully understand the forgotten preciousness. We wait impatiently for tomorrow, thought we could even catch the moon, thought there's nothing we couldn't do. The idea that there's nothing we couldn't do is in the past tense. We used to think that. Almost states a jaded understanding of their present situation. and the futility of trying to catch the moon. Before we thought we could do that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a crazy idea, but we could do it. And now it's like, yeah, that ain't happening. There's so many things today, they're not happening. No matter how much we try, we can't do that. Finishes off the track, says picked, sent, and informed enumerations of letters go forward, being sure it's understood. The sound of words so quiet and mellow, a dead sinking story we can't take back. Going back to the idea of a deep chain of sadness, or sorry, a deep chain of disease that holds them down, we come back to the idea of sinking. A chain pulling us further down. A sinking story we can't go back on. Even talks about an impatience. It says, we wait impatiently for tomorrow. I think that's an important aspect of the place that they're in, that they are so ready to give up moments, seconds, minutes, full days of the limited time they have in order to just not be today. And I think that's a really powerful message right there. Is being so fed up with today that you'd rather just sleep. Why can't it be tomorrow? Why can't it be next week? I'd gladly give up 24 hours of my life just to not deal with today, but you have to remember too that it's not just today. According to the song, this is their present. Tomorrow will be the same as today. Their actions will still be futile, meaningless. They will still try to find some sort of sense in their world, some sort of truth, and if they get it, it'll slip through their fingers as usual. They will once again wish it was tomorrow. And that is a depressing concept, but is very true for a lot of people, I think, at least in my limited exposure, mostly living in capitalist America, and knowing so many people who hate their jobs. They do the morning grind, they come home dead, but they can't not work. Everybody is 1 week away from complete bankruptcy. Wages keep dropping, prices keep rising, there's no safety anymore, there's no meaning to life. I know a lot of people like this. Always saying this. Same phrase. Why can't it be tomorrow? Why can't it be the weekend? Willing to give up so much time in order just to escape the mundane aspects of life because there's nothing fulfilling in it. I think the heaviness of the song, needing to scream these sounds out and allowing the quiet moments to be too quiet, absolutely fill the song with the type of dread and overwhelming capacity of this whole feeling here, this whole vibe. The song just works together in such a way that, well, honestly, I think I need to listen to it again. Those are my thoughts on Envy's Chain Wandering Deeply. Let me know what you thought of this one. Put your perspectives, comments, opinions down in the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It'll take you to this menu. It's got my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. We have a special selection coming up next. Otherwise, see you guys tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.